Welcome back, everyone. Now, words, swords. In the beginning was the word, and the pen is mightier than the sword. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But like most things we were taught, we now know this not to be true. Cymatics shows us words water intent. Our words are tools of frequency. They can enslave or they can free us, just as our word is our bond, the James Bond, a man owned by the state, a piece of certificated state-sanctioned debt slavery, a living man who got a piece of paper instead of a brain. The straw man, the all caps name, the Capitus Maximus, the decapitation of us from our land, in Gale land, our bodies, the true body of the Christ, and the body of the land we place our souls upon, the souls of our right foot forward. Sentences are passed by judges, characters move stories, characters of alphabets, stories move consciousness, and our consciousness has been hijacked, has it not? Moved and coerced by narratives, narratives that serve to turn living men and women into this. Words hold not just meaning, but they shape the very fabric of our reality, a reality that is not real. The film reel, the scripted movie in which we mindlessly play our parts, or not, as the case is becoming. The quickening, the realization that there can be only one Neo, for it is the question that drives us, and the answer, we are the Elohim. Now, there are two realizations becoming abundantly clear on this channel. We are the Druids of old battling Rome, the legal system, just as Christ was. And if you think that's too melodramatic, think again. We are in the time of revelation, after all, the great reveal. And today we have no doubt one of those great minds of old walking amongst us, a man who now needs no introduction, Neil Bentley, back to whip us up with some word soup to decode the code and to shine light upon the construct, and a con it is, of this English language that we speak and both spell. Neil, you're back. Thank you. So what are we doing?
Follow that if you can.
I know I'm a good turn, but I go on too long. That's what my granddad used to say. But yes, I do like a good intro. And obviously, everyone knows my passion about etymology and about words. And as we've interviewed you, Steve, and many others, we know how important it is, and it absolutely fascinates me. So today, Neil, I think you have a real treat in store for us, don't you, in relation to decoding some of the spells and twicks of the Babylonian misfits.
Again, a lot of it in relation to your work. I first started coming across these compounds of words when I was doing the law 10, 15 years ago, or whatever it was, with parliament and government, etc., etc. And then when I stumbled into this, I think one of the very first videos I saw was the Irish wisdom preserved in the Bible and the pyramids with Conor McDowry. And he started going into these compounds of words. So it was that sort of led on to working out that a lot of the words that we use and a lot of the words that we see are actually compounds of other words, but have a much more fascinating background to what the word is. So we have trigger words, which are deliberate misspelling of words to program a picture into your head. And then we have these compounds of words. So it's a combination of both, but it's predominantly compounds of words. But we'll start off with the ones which I will probably repeat every single video that I do, because they have been programmed so deeply. I'm going to need a sledgehammer to absolutely knock them out, because people still see those words and are still triggered by those words. So if we get rid of that.
It definitely runs deeply. I'm just doing a neuro-linguistic programming course at the moment, and just that ability of words to embed into our psyches, like I say, it's difficult to crack the nut, but for those that have eyes to see, isn't it?
I think once, like I say, I can only look back at where I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, with my understanding of the common education system and this breaking of words. And that's like I say, as soon as you start seeing them yourself, like I say, the very first word, Phoenician, and this is the picture that comes up as soon as you see the word Phoenician, it's spelled with a PH. The Mediterranean, these sea people with advanced knowledge, they must have lived on boats because there is no home for them. Even in the circus paradigm, there's no home for them. They were just sea people that lived in boats and went around the Mediterranean with advanced knowledge.
Yeah, like
Until
Stephen said, they had the waterways, didn't they? That they were the boat people, the rowmen.
yeah, well, again, we can't add two and two together because the tribe of Dan were always known as the sea people. They were always the sailors, the rulers of the waves, etc., etc. So when we have the Vaticanized version, which is the Phoenicians with the PH, that's the trigger to stop you looking at the Finians, the Phoenicians. Fin, obviously meaning white in Irish. So everyone knows Finians as Irish. Yeah. If you were to say Phoenicians, everyone thinks the Mediterranean, but all you have to do is just simply say it's the Phoenicians, not the Phoenicians. Phoenicians is your red herring. The Phoenicians is what they don't want you to look at. That's the 20% that they took out. So that's the blatant obvious one. Phoenicians, Phoenicians, and I think we said during the Saturn video, it was the even in the Circus Act, even they tell you it was the Phoenicians that deified Jacob into Saturn. Yeah. But as soon as you realise it's the Irish Phoenicians, not the Mediterranean Phoenicians, then you can actually put a home to where these Phoenicians come from, and then you can expand your studies based on that. So again, we move on to the next obvious one.
And Stephen says that the waters after the floods, the Mediterranean, that's where they pushed all the flood waters to, and that's basically, you know, the kind of foam Greece and the rest of it. But you know, just tying that in. Continue.
Mediterranean's always seemed a really strange one to me because of the Straits of Gibraltar. Did the Mediterranean even exist 15, 20,000 years ago? If you look at is it the Black Sea with the Crimea?
Yeah.
That used to be an inland lake. And then when the sea levels rose, it then turned into a sea. It was connected to the Mediterranean. So what I'm saying is before the Great Flood, when the sea levels rose by 150 meters, was the Mediterranean just an inland sea and not connected to the Atlantic? Who knows? But in the bottom of the Black Sea, you can find a coastline at the bottom of the Black Sea that used to be the old coastline because they found shells and pebbles, etc., of where the old coastline used to be. And then they add 150 meters onto that, and there you go, the new coastline. So the second one, the Aryans. Everyone knows the Aryans, Aryans, the old blonde-haired, blue-eyed Germanic master race. It always, it always confused me because Hitler was always, apparently one of the main places he looked at was Tibet, which you can agree with because that was later on. But if you wanted to go right back to the earliest accounts of the Aryans, why don't you just look at air? If you want to find the blue-eyed master race called the Aryans, go and look at air.
Yeah.
So it was the Aryans who come from air. Who are the Aryans? Not difficult. Again, the bad one, the swastika. Yeah. Everyone thinks of Hitler. As soon as they see the swastika, they start thinking bad things in Hitler, etc., etc. And as we should know by now, the swastika is only a sign for the black sun, Sirius. So those are a few trigger words. We'll get them out of the way. So let's go on to some compounds of words. Atlantis. So Atlantis, as you will find in Irish Wisdom Preserved in the Bible and Pyramids, is a compound of 3 Irish words, Atlantis. Well, you can automatically spot that the lan is land. You get that from also get that from Landan, Land of Dan, London.
One of
So
my
lan,
favourite.
yep. So this is where land comes from, where you go, oh, lan is land. So Atlantis. So you've automatically got the middle one as land. So you've got at and tis. At means great, tis means knowledge. So basically, Atlantis is a compound of 3 Irish words meaning great land of knowledge. Again, that's kind of a bit of a giveaway once you get to that bit. Similarly, if we were to look at Atlantis, as soon as you mention the word Atlantis, everyone will say, oh, well, Atlantis, that's beyond the Pillars of Hercules, quoting Plato, or misquoting Plato, like everybody does. Everyone also presumed that the Pillars of Hercules are at the Mediterranean, which they aren't. As we know by now, the Pillars of Hercules are the Giant's Causeway in Ireland and Fingal's Cave in Scotland. And if you came down from the north, you would have to sail through the Pillars of Hercules to get to Tara, the capital of Atlantis. So, who was Hercules? If we go back to Irish Wisdom Preserved in the Bible and Pyramids, we find the word Hercules is a compound of 3 Irish words, Hercules. This translated, Hercules is translated into man of great strength, which fits in with the paradigm of who Hercules is. So who was Hercules? Hercules comes from one of the tribes of Israel. I believe it comes from, is it the tribe of Dan or the tribe of Judah? One or the other. I think it was the tribe of Dan. Either way, the tribe that Hercules comes from is Irish. So the character is based in Ireland. The name Hercules is 3 Irish words, and the Pillars of Hercules are in Ireland. So Hercules is Irish.
And where did you say the Pillars of Ireland were again? Sorry, Neil. It's Southern Ireland, is it?
The Pillars of Hercules.
Mm.
One of them is at Giant's Causeway.
Causeway, sorry, yeah.
With Finn McCool, and the other one is over at Fingal's Cave with Fingal. And apparently they used to stand there and just lob rocks at each other all day, like you would.
I've been in a bar in Ireland called Finn McCool's. That's as close as I got to that tourist site.
Again, I would highly recommend if you want to talk about Finn McCool, go and read the story of Finn McCool and the Salmon of Knowledge. That's a brilliant story, is that? Or Usin. We need to do a video on all these ancient Irish stories because they're absolutely hysterical. I mean, when the Tuatha De Danann landed in Ireland and they were going to fight the first Battle of Moytura against the Firbolg, the Tuatha's champion and the Firbolg's champion actually sat down before the battle and sort of like compared the weapons and talked about what rules they were going to fight by, etc., etc. Some great stories. I mean, they sit down and actually discuss this battle and what rules they're going to fight by before they have the battle. So
that's it with stories, isn't it? Like what I was saying in the introduction, these stories of kind of, we've lost them, and it was the stories that moved our consciousness before they hijacked us.
Absolutely. I mean, again, if you're going to do this subject, you have to go and study all these stories and learn who these characters are, because all of a sudden, a couple of years later, when you're over at studying the Native Americans in North India, the North Indian Americans, all of a sudden you find a tribe called the tribe of Manannán, who happened to speak Gaelic, who had their god was a white-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed European. And then all of a sudden, because you already know from your previous studies, the king of the Isle of Man was called King Manannán, who was tall, white skin, blonde hair, blue eyes. But he trained Lugh. King
Right.
Manannán trained Lugh on the Isle of Man. So then it's this crossover between stories and reality. We know the Isle of Man's there. Even if you go to the Isle of Man, all you'll ever hear is about King Manannán. But it'll all be, oh, this is myth, this is lore, this is legend. All right, well, explain how the tribe of Manannán get to speak Gaelic and talk about a white-skinned, blonde-haired European that came and talked to them advanced knowledge then.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know that background to the story, what the
Yeah.
Indians would say wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. So again, there's quite a lot of crossover, but you have to learn the stories first. Here's a good one. Solomon. Sol, O, Mon. Sol is sun, O is on, Mon is mound. So Solomon, sun on the mound, which I would then speculate that as King Solomon built Solomon's temple, which is in Jerusalem, which means that Solomon's temple is in Edinburgh, and the only mound near Edinburgh is Arthur's Seat, the Mound of Cedars. So I would suggest Solomon, sun on the mound, is talking about the Mound of Cedars.
Yeah.
And again, just while we're passing through Solomon and Edinburgh, let's have a look at Jerusalem.
I've been trying to get hold of that book, Behold Jerusalem, and it's like gold dust, but my friend Shane's just managed to get a copy and I was quite envious, really. And he's been sending me pictures like some kind of torment. And I was just like, I think it's it by Graham K. Griffiths that Stevens mentioned, because obviously Eden, the Garden of Eden would have been Eden,
Edinburgh.
Edin for Edinburgh, yeah, exactly. And how the zodiac is imprinted into our landscape, of course.
Well, actually, I found another decipher for this since I've been mentioning the first one.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm one slide too far then. When we're talking about Jerusalem, one of the deciphers is Jeru-se-lem, which literally translates to I see the light, which fits perfectly. But if you then, going back to what I keep saying, is there is no J in either ancient Hebrew or ancient Irish. If you were then to drop the J off Jerusalem, your word would then be Eru-Salem, and Eru is another name for God.
Wow.
So Eru-Salem would read as God, the light. But then to take it one step further, just to take it one step further, if you said Eru-Salem is God, the light, well, we already know that the light is this energy coming from Sirius.
Yeah, yeah.
So that Eru-Salem could also mean God of Sirius, God, the light of Sirius. Their God, because they're in the occult, their God is this energy, Sirius, this light that comes from Sirius. So this is their God. So Eru-Salem, God the light, would make perfect sense with this energy coming from Sirius.
The sun behind the sun. And stay tuned, because I think Stephen's got a few thoughts on this. We were just talking off camera, weren't we, Neil? So this is a good plug. But on the and this is, you're hearing this first, exclusive. We are going to be going live with Neil and Stephen on the 7th of December on the channel at 6 p.m. Loads of people have been messaging me saying, "Could you ask Stephen this? Could you ask Neil this?" So I thought, what a brilliant idea. So I'm super stoked, if I don't sound too American saying something stupid like that. But yeah, super excited for that. So stay tuned, guys. And you can get to ask your questions. That'd be amazing.
I'm super nervous about that one.
No, don't be. It's going to be
right. Next one, Rome.
Yes.
My
favourites.
Again, you'll find this one in Irish Wisdom Preserved in the Bible and Pyramids. Rome, R-O-M-E, split into a compound of two Irish words, ro and om. Rome means heaven. Om means earth. I'll go back to what we were saying from the Sirius video, which again, when you start looking at Rome, we only presume that Rome only started taking place when Roman Christianity appeared. Well, it didn't. Rome existed a long, long time before it was ever Roman. In fact, like I say, in the circus paradigm, they keep telling us that Rome used to be pagan, and then it was about just about 400 AD, was it, that they converted to Roman Christianity? Well, basically what they're saying is there that pagan is British Christianity. This is why Rome is a compound of two Irish words. This is why Tiber is an Irish word. This is why some Sumer and Solumor are compounds of two Irish words. Everything about Rome is Ireland, because it used to be an Irish trading post before the Tuatha De Danann went back, stole British Christianity and converted it into Roman Christianity.
Yeah.
We like this one. Cabala.
And that.
So, Cabala. If we go to Egypt, Ka, Ka, is the vessel that carries the soul. Ba is the soul. And like we found out last week in the Saturn video, La is the frequency of the soul. It's La being the seventh tone in the solfeggio scale, 639 hertz.
Yeah, that one blew my wig, didn't it? No.
So just in the word Cabala, you have the carrier of the soul, and the tone of the soul.
Yeah.
And that's how it all gets wrapped up in the tree of life, the Cabal tree of life, which obviously comes from Druidic tree worship.
Tree of life, the spine of Albion, again, all links back in, doesn't it, to what we're finding out with Steve?
It all comes back to Britain. It all started from Britain and then just got mixed up and plagiarized and thrown out into Disneyland. This is one of the first ones I actually found, to be honest with you, and this opened the key to so many other things. Satan, the jackal, say, the tan, the jackal. And since when we've then gone on to Tanis and Tanims and Tanils and Tan, meaning jackals, multiples of, and I should really say that this goes on to what even Joe Rogan was on about. Have you seen the latest spat with Joe Rogan?
No, I can't say I have.
It's actually quite the dragon one. He's a dragon believer.
I think you mentioned, I think you might have mentioned it to me, Neil, but I've not seen it. No, I've not seen it.
I put a post up on it, but I'll come back. I'll come back to that one a little bit later, because we're going to run through some sass.
Yeah. and talking about Hercules again, tying it with Stephen stuff. I always go tying it with Stephen stuff, but he Hercules is bashing, speaking of dragons, the Draco in the stars at the moment. He's like smashing the Draco system on the head at the moment. So hold the line, people. Rome, the heaven is about to fall again.
Well, Rome might be going to Kansas. Bye.
Exactly. So if in any form of despair, you have a home here with at DarkMatters, we'll uncover this shit for you. Finny.
Right. So once you recognise say, S-A, as being the, as soon as you drop the S-A off anything, that automatically leaves other words. So say, lem, drop the say, the. So what does lem mean? Lem means light. So Salem simply means the light. Back to last week's Saturn. Sat is the turn. It was actually quite funny when I found this. This was another one where I nearly dropped through my seat, because you don't expect turn to be anything. You just expect turn to be turn, like we all know it is, but it's just not. It's when it pops up as being the mast, Turney's mast, that'll make you drop through the floor. So we've got
this frequency that's coming from Saturn, whatever that's doing. I mean, when like I said in the last podcast, like when I wrote it down about they came and slaughtered the druids because we were upholding this dome or this force field, to protect us from the negative energies of the archons, which is obviously, you know, the wanderers, you know, Saturn and Jupiter and the rest of them. That kind of fitted in. And when Stephen said it, like I say, but it kind of blew my head really. And then when you came with this on and did the mass stuff, I was just like, wow. And I think that is this hijack frequency, and that's why it is something to do perhaps with Saturn. But I mean, you know, who knows?
Well, as soon as you say Saturn, as soon as you say Saturn, everyone starts talking about frequencies and soul traps, etc., etc. And like I said last week, you've got the sixth planet, possibly using the sixth tone, La, going to the sixth chakra, the pineal gland, 639 hertz.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already know that 666 is a complete mistranslation and it has absolutely jack shit to do with Satan. But carrying on with Sauron.
Oh Christ!
Sauron from Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Again, we take Sa, drop that, means the Euron. I'm presuming you know you've seen something about Lord of the Rings and Sauron.
Yes.
Did you know that Euron actually translates to stable keeper? Keeps horses. Euron means horse keeper. And what did Sauron have? An army. Yep, an army of these black horses. So
I was talking to my friend Lucy, and she was saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe how literally Lord of the Rings it is, or would have been perhaps until like the veil got thicker and thicker. We all just dumbed down and forgot who we were. Like, you know, it really would have been."
Yeah, I mean, I know I should really do a deep dive into Lord of the Rings, but it's just I'd rather do The Witcher. That again is the same time period, the same sort of feel, the same characters.
Yeah.
Right, so we've got Sauron. Let's go to Samhain.
Yeah.
That's your pagan Halloween.
Yeah.
Which, if you just go down the normal routes, then that has something to do with sacrifice and worshipping demons or dark side or whatever. So, Sa is the main. Main literally translates to wane, as in wax and wane. Wax on, wane off. So wane is the dark part of the year. That's all it is. So Samhain is literally the dark half of the year.
Yeah.
So as we get into winter and the night's drawing, etc., etc. So Main is wane. Samhain translates to the wane, and all it's talking about is winter.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. There's nothing more difficult than that.
And I think like you said, Neil, I think there are people that practice Satanism and all that kind of Anton. I mean, Anton LaVey even said he just made it all up. Like, well, you taught me that, I think, in one when we were talking about it.
His daughter said that he knew absolutely nothing about it. He just made it all up.
Yeah.
He just he wanted to create a scary sounding cult. That was all.
Yeah. And I think that like we know with the, you know, as we've coined it, you've coined it really, no, not me, but Disney Vaticanized timelines, you know, there are people that do practice that, and there are people that, you know, are worshipping Satan and doing really dark, awful looking horrible things, but as we're discovering, it's not the full picture by any means.
Well, again, I mean if you are literally prepared to sign your soul away, if it's true, I don't even know if that's true anymore. I mean, the stories, all these people, they signed their soul to the devil, they sold their soul to Satan. Well, if there is no Satan, so either they sold their soul on the belief of a character that just simply doesn't exist, or they're also fully aware of the Circus Act, and it's all just part of the Circus Act. Whichever one would you like to choose?
Yeah,
But like,
and I think
like I've
I
been
think, I
saying
think
since one, I think they've forgotten. I don't think they know themselves. I think they actually believe that they are signing their soul to the Satan.
Yeah, and I think there are energies and entities. I know there was a lady that put a comment on one of our videos, and she was saying, "Have you ever had any direct experiences with these entities?" And now I have. I've been dragged out of bed. I've seen. I think there's things at play that we can't begin to possibly fathom. You know, in relation to multidimensional energies and multidimensional portals and gateways. They're obviously trying to summon something, and I think that they have been doing that, like with CERN and whatnot. But I also agree that I think it is just it's all theatre at this point. I can't even stand looking at the Truth movement or anything like that anymore because I mean, even the Trump stuff, Neil, you know, like this guy was promoting the vaccines and then, you know, he's on a plane with, you know, what's his chops, Elon Musk, and like these are good guys, and it's just like, why is everyone still really suckering up to this theatre at this point? Like it's got so ridiculous, and it is distraction. And the more we kind of dig and get into this stuff, the more, you know, it really is beyond the world not in it. I just kind of go, wow, okay, you know.
I just think that people's got such short-term memories. Is they must only be able to remember things for about 18 months. That's
Right,
about the
go,
long of it.
shall we? Hang on a minute, go for a little swim.
Well, again, like
What's
we
the
were
news?
talking about before, like we were talking about before when I said you have a certain crop of researchers, and then once they get married and have kids, and then their kids are coming through, and then that's the next crop of researchers, and they all do exactly the same thing without ever sort of moving on. So basically, they are trapped within the circus paradigm, which is also difficult to step outside of, because if you've been studying something for the last 5 or 10 years and you've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of knowing exactly what Satanism is, etc., then all of a sudden someone comes along and goes, you know something, the foundation of your entire theory is complete rubbish, a bit like Jason and the Archaics.
Yeah,
If you come along and say, well, his entire theory is based around the Bible being literally true and coming from Rome, well, if you just say the Bible isn't literal word for word and definitely doesn't come from Rome, they can't then step outside and say, "Oh, right, well, I better start studying the origins of the Bible island," because they're already so committed to what they know as being true.
yeah.
Right, this is the one that I was dedicating to Joe Rogan, Sauron, Saurian. Back to dragons.
I'm sure he watches the show, Neil. And if he doesn't, I'm sure he'll catch on soon. Come on, Joel. Get with the program.
Well, if I just keep saying dragons, maybe the YouTube will pick up on dragons and then say something. What was it? What were them stupid women called? The View, is it? When she was calling Joe Rogan out because they were trying to slag Joe Rogan off and basically make him look stupid. And one of these stupid women on The View was saying, well, he believes in dragons. He thinks dragons were real. And then it flipped back to Joe Rogan's side, and he's going, well, all I did was say, are they real? Could they have been real? Could they have existed at the same time as man? That's all he was asking. So
Yeah.
I think, again, we went back to tannins and tannims. I mean, dragons are actually named in the Bible.
Yeah, yeah. And Stephen will say there's a petrified dragon that's linked to obviously the Great Bear, Arthur, the seat, up in Scotland as well. So
again, there's a few actually, because if you like, I keep going about Mud Fossil University. He's actually gone and got some of the. He's been to these places. He's got rocks from these places, and he's had these rocks genetically tested and found
yeah,
out that yes, they were animals.
yeah,
These mountains that we're looking at, yes, they are remnants of what's left of an animal.
yeah.
So,
I'm gonna contact him. I keep saying I will. I've just wrote it down again as a note to self spell.
yeah, great bloke. But
Yeah,
the translation of the word Sauron,
yeah.
the urine means golden. So basically, Saurian dragon is basically the golden dragon.
Oh.
There you go, Joe. Some more evidence for you.
Awesome.
Again, when you start being able to spot these, this was brilliant. I mean, I've been looking at this word my entire life and I've never seen it. But then as soon as you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
dragons are always kind of, not always, but depicted often as guarding gateways, and they're sat on gold, aren't they? Like it's in the Hobbit films, isn't it, where the dragons like protecting all this gold and all these riches and stuff, and they kind of have to go and defeat it, etc. And I think
Again,
it's quite symbolic of the gateway and the gold of alchemy, like, you know, lead to gold. Again, dragons kind of represent, you know, because we know that again it's astrotheological, anatomical, allegorical, and it also happens, you know, like mind blown, but that they represent that alchemical spiritual ascension, for want of a better word, I suppose.
yeah, I mean, everywhere you're looking, Lord of the Rings, The Witcher, whatever, dragons always existed. Every culture around the planet talks about dragons. They have the words for dragons embedded within the languages. Like I explained last time, where that woman had been studying a dinosaur bone, which was supposed to be 100 million years old, which turned out to be 30,000 years old because she found blood vessels inside it. We've got people like Mud Fossil University who has actually been to these places, taken a rock and had it genetically tested and found out, yes, it was an animal. So I would say that anyone saying that, trying to laugh at the subject, the onus is back on you to prove all these things wrong now. There's so much evidence there that, I mean, you like I always try and judge it that if I took these two arguments into court, which one would win?
Yeah, exactly.
If I went in and said, yes, dinosaurs and dragons lived 30,000 years ago, and you had an archaeologist who was arguing that they lived 100 million years ago, if I put those two cases side by side in a court of law now, I guarantee you the 30,000 year old dragons would win.
Yeah.
Because there is no evidence for a 100 million year old dragon.
Yeah. It's amazing what's been hidden from us, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But this is why I find it so fascinating. Just to, like this, I can never look at this word again. Viking.
Hit us. Hit me.
Okay. So we going back on my education. I keep trying to say our education.
Yeah.
We know that the Tuatha De Dan and the tribe of Dan are mega important, stupidly important in world history and how they like playing with names. I also need to do a video that I've probably got 50 names for the Tuatha De Dan, but one of the names they called themselves was the Kings. They called themselves the Judges and they called themselves the Kings. Now we'll find this everywhere. So if we look at this word, Viking, the Vikings came from Denmark, which is Danmark, the mark of Dan. They were the sea people. They were the tall, big, blue-haired, blonde-haired, fighting sea people, master race, etc., etc. So if we drop the word king and leaves us Vi, as we know from the Isle of Lewis, the V and the W are interchangeable. So if we change the V to a W and end up with Y kings, Y is German for we. So all of a sudden, Vikings turns into we kings. And the kings were the Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of Dan. So they literally called themselves the kings. Vikings, we kings. That's
And I
how
think
you
they
get them.
called the shepherd kings of the Anu, weren't they, as well? Apparently.
The Dragon Lords of Anu. They were called the Dragon Lords of Anu and the 13th Order of the Dragon. So there you go, two more dragons thrown in there.
Yeah. Which, as we've said, you know, again and again and again, the city of Luhdan is surrounded by the 13 dragons, isn't it, aren't they?
13 dragon statues.
Yeah.
So once you understand that the tribe of Dan call themselves the kings, the leaders, whatever, let's go and have a look at Sardinia.
Always wanted to go there, Neil.
Yeah, well, this is where all the giant graveyard, the giants' graves and the giant caves, and it's totally related to everything about Sardinia is about giants. So let's have a look at the word Sardinia. There you go. That's one of the giant tombs on Sardinia. And they
Wow.
said they found skeletons between 9 and 12 foot tall, etc., etc. And again, this is all related back to the kings. So if you take
Yeah.
the word, Sardinia, if you break it down into Sardin, Sar is Czar, Caesar.
Yeah.
Caesar is leader or king. So you got Tsar Din here, Dania, Tsar Dan. Sardinia just basically breaks down to Tsar Dan, Caesar Dan, King Dan. Sardinia can be read as King Dan.
Sneaky little monkeys. They get everywhere, don't they, Neil?
Well,
They
again,
get it.
if you start seeing this Tsar, Caesar, Tsar, well, you also
Yeah.
know that the Russians were called the Tsars,
Yeah.
and then Tsar, if you just translate that word to king, that's where the two authors were because they called themselves the king. And then if you match it in with Tsar and the double-headed eagle of the tribe of Dan, you just have these markers all over the place. And like I say, once you've built up enough markers in the same place to the same people, it's a bit difficult to argue against it.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, you know what's coming next? Well, we've got London, Land Dan, Land of Dan, Lon Don. As I said, if you went back, it was 16 vowels, no consonants. So London would have just been London. And Lun, as we found out from Atlantis, Lun is land. Don is always Dan, land of Dan. That's it. Nothing more difficult than that. London is land of Dan, or Ludonium, as
Yeah.
the Romans try and Latinize it to be. But it's just simple. I just see it every time I see that word now. It's land Dan, land of Dan.
And they called, like in the Godfather films, they were called like Dons, weren't they, as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And then you've
again,
got the dog father, you know, Vati dog can. Oh no, can dog, Vati Papa. Um, the dog father, the Godfather, the Don.
yep, it's always to do with either Dan. Like I say, everything all goes back to either Ireland or Sirius.
Yeah.
If you start off with the answer being Ireland or Sirius, you probably answer 90% of the questions that you've got.
Yeah, yeah.
So while we're in Britain, let's stick with Britain. There you go. And there we have your 13th Order of the Dragon with your 13 dragon statues around the land of Dan, which the tribe of Dan were called the 13th Order of the Dragon. Ingolland and Scotland. So, the seventh invasion of Ireland, the Milesians by Scotia, who was Tutankhamun's granddaughter. Now, when they left Egypt, the first place they went to was Spain. Queen Scotia married King Mill of Spain. They had two sons, Heber and Herman. When King Mill died, Scotia, Heber, and Herman went back to Ireland. Now, they were called the Milesians. Now, the Milesians came from Gaul, Galicia, which is why when they then took over Ireland, Ireland then became Gaelic, the Gauls. And this is why through Heber, they then also became the Hebrews from Hibernia.
Yeah.
So this is how they sort of gave their names to the countries, to the places within Britain. So if we start off with England, break that down into in Gaul land, the land of the Gauls, in Gaul land. The ancient Gauls in Gaul land. And they named everything. Again, it's you can literally go all over the world and find from either the tribes of Israel, from the Gauls. Most places break down to again the same answers.
Yeah.
Again, we'll go to this one. We've got Scotland, which is Scotia land. Then you've got over in Canada, you've got Nova Scotia, which is New Scotia. So every time you see in Scotia, that's Queen Scotia of the Milesians. Unfortunately, she died during the 7th invasion, so she gave her name to Scotland.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of Queen Scotia. Well, I'm pretty sure it's not a picture, a computer representation of the picture of Queen Scotia.
Yeah. So again, they're telling us all like that it's over there in like Egypt, Rome, all those kind of things, and distracting from the fact that it's all based over here.
Well, this is what made it quite easy for them, because some of it was based in Egypt.
Like the mystery school and whatnot.
Well, everything got perfected in Egypt. It actually got created in Ireland.
Yeah.
Initially got created into an organized structure. Then, after the Starega slide 6,000-7,000 years ago, they went over to Egypt and basically perfected the mystery schools and the organized religions into Gnosticism and the Hermetic teachings. This is why there's so much history in Egypt behind these things. But then it was in 1800 BC during the Exodus that they were then kicked out after Akhenaten tried to tell everyone that they'd been lied to. Again, this is where I feel like Akhenaten. I'm telling everyone that they've been lied to.
Maybe you are, Neil.
It's falling on stony ground.
The last Blue Boar of England that we do a lot of the law stuff with, he's directly a descendant of Henry VIII, like, which is interesting because he kind of looks like him without the gingerness and the beard. Like, so it's like interesting. Maybe we've all. I think sometimes I've just been some bar wench, but I'm sure another I've perhaps been something a little bit more exciting and interesting. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, this one's an easy one. Wales. Once you know the W and the V are interchangeable, Wales becomes Vales. Vales are valleys.
Valleys, yeah, of course, yeah.
So you've got the Welsh valleys.
Yeah, and the red dragon, of course, that they love flying that flag, Neil. They love it. It's everywhere. There's red teddies, there's flags. It's slapped all up. People are flying it off their houses, and I'm like, oh, holy hell, no.
Yeah, but again, go back to Joe Rogan. Here's another dragon for you, and the red dragon comes from the Tuatha De Danann, another dragon, and that's also where the Tartarians get the griffin from.
Yes,
from the tribe of Dan, from this dragon of the tribe of Dan.
Well, you shall draw your power from the seat of the dragon, the red dragon.
Or the tribe of Dan. So there we have a Vales in Wales.
The Vales and Vales.
Right. We go on to one that I mentioned earlier, the Isle of Lewis. The Isle of Lewis is where the Levi's come from. Lewis, Levi's, just swap the W for a V. The Levi's were one of the tribes of Israel, and apparently the Levi's were one of the most important tribes because they were the protectors of the tabernacle on the Isle of Lewis, which is why I keep now trying to somehow tie Mary MacLeod and the Clan MacLeod and the Isle of Lewis and Shine Not Burn, etc., etc. It's all connected. I just haven't found the link yet.
That's why I sneakily put it in the intro, Neil, for you, about there can be only one and the quickening. I know you probably picked up on it, and I did because we're nerds. But if I was thinking, what is Carly like going on about? And then obviously you get the Neo, isn't it? The one. It's all linked into characters.
Yeah, well, this is where that's the Highlander, the Mary MacLeod, the Clan MacLeod. I am immortal, but then it turns out that Trump's mother is called MacLeod, who comes from Lewis, and the Levi's were the protectors of the tabernacle. And then if you go and look at Trump, there is some connection to the tribes and some magical power going on with Trump. So I know it's all connected. I've not quite nailed it just yet, but the Isle of Lewis.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say the Isle of Lewis is where the Levi's come from.
Yeah, Interesting. And then I mean, me and John talked about it, and the live is up on my channel, I think. Oh, it might be on John's channel when we had a chat. Oh no, sorry, no, it was Ants, me and Ant on Stellify. I do apologise, it wasn't John Cooper.
So you're
Sorry,
on with John next
John.
week.
And we talked about Trump being a time traveler and all those kind of theories, which is super interesting if you've not looked into it, you know, and it might be a bit too much for people, but we know it's about time. The time's a big, huge player, and time obviously linked to Father Time, to Saturn, to the mast, and there's something magical going on. We've all got this magi, we are all the magi, and that's what I'm trying to say to people. You know, we are the Elohim. Stop having people telling you who you are, what you think, what you do, who you are, if you're a Buddhist or you're a Hindu. It's all construct. They created all that stuff, not to offend anybody, you know, have your faith, but you know, just remember where it kind of roots from. Just upset a load of
Yeah,
people there. When I was talking, I was going, yeah, shut up, Carly. You just offended pretty much most of the world. Well done, me. I do apologize. Don't mean to
I would
offend
take that.
them.
I would take that on one stage further, actually, because when I first
Go on, Neil.
started, again, when Trump was around the first in 2016, 2015, 2016, when he was running for that election, everyone again was talking about these books 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But the books are about Baron Trump and his adventures in the underworld, and then Baron Trump being the last president of America. No, yes, it all has to be connected to time travel, etc., because these books were printed in 1886. So they were printed 140 years ago, and they're basically predicting everything that's happening today. But the main character in all those books is Trump's son, Baron.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So everyone's looking at Trump, Don, because Don shows up in the book as being Baron's guide.
Oh, Don.
When Baron goes to the underworld, Baron Trump's adventures in the underworld, which doesn't get as much notice as what the last president does, his guide in the underworld is called Don.
Yep, yes, that's right. Yep, of
So I
course.
think this time thing has more to do with Baron Trump than it has Donald Trump. So if anyone's looking at that, I'd look more closely at Baron, and especially as this time, Baron's just gone into politics, hasn't he?
Has he? Right, okay.
Yeah, he's followed his dad into politics, and it just happens, which I pissed myself laughing at. He was on telly, stood next to Don a couple of weeks ago. He's about 6'8", 6'9". He's absolutely massive. He's a Nephilim.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I didn't realize.
Nephilim.
Oh. I mean, like I say, I've stopped paying that much attention to it all. I mean, you pay enough, don't you? Because it's just hilarious. But wow, yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize he was kind of that large.
Yeah, he's gone into politics, and all of a sudden he sprung up in the last couple of years. He was just a bit smaller than Trump, and then all of a sudden you've got pictures of him now, and he's sort of about 6'8", 6'9" tall, something like that. He's just out and out Nephilim.
Yeah. Welcome to the fall of New Mercia, you know.
So, Aryans. Sumerians. Now, I know everyone likes to get involved with the Anunnaki and Nibiru, and they landed in Sumeria, etc., which is so easily to disprove. So we'll just talk about the word Sumeria, Sumerians, Sumerian. Sumer is an Irish word for sun. Aryan is another word for someone that comes from air. So the sun worshipping Aryans were the Sumerians.
Yeah. And that picture there, Neil, is like they call it the plumed. Is it the plumed or feathered serpent? Don't they call that?
I'm not sure what character they call that. The plumed serpent is Quetzalcoatl from the Aztecs in South America. I'm not sure what is it Enki or Enlil, this one?
Yeah,
I don't know. The pine cone is all to do with the third eye and the pineal gland, etc. But again, a lot of these pictures are your Disneyland characters. You might as well have a picture of Mickey Mouse there. There's nothing happened in Mesopotamia. Yes, people lived in Mesopotamia. Yes, there were buildings and great buildings, and it had some ancient history in Mesopotamia that goes back thousands of years. But these Sumerians are Irish. And again, if you start looking at the Sumerians and the sons of Anu, the sons of Anu being the Tuatha De Danann that landed on a mountain in Ireland one night, but they've converted it into the sons of Anu with the Anunnaki that landed in a mountain in Sumeria one night. Well, yes, they did land in Sumeria, Ireland. Sumerians.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Sumerians from Sumer, Aryan, Newgrange.
Yeah.
Right, which one we're looking at here? Bulgarians. So if we look at the word Bulgarian, I mean, the Bulgarian Empire used to be quite big. So if you look at the word Bulgarian,
yep.
The name for Bulgaria comes from a bend in the river called the Bulge. So it's the Bulge Aryans, the Aryans from the land of the Bulge, Bulgarians. That's simple. It's one again. It's as soon as you know that Bulgaria is named from a bend in the river. So there's your Bulge. So your Bulge Aryans, the Bulgarians. Again, I think you know this one.
Yep.
The barbarians. This comes from Conan, the barbarians.
Yeah.
We're up to 24. Right, so Barbar. Barbar simply means beard in Irish.
Yeah.
So the barbarians is the bearded Aryans. And if you then you could actually take that one step further, because the barbarians are the bearded Aryans. So you have Conan, who just happens to be an Irish sun god. So you have Conan, the Irish sun god, the bearded Aryan, Conan the barbarian.
Awesome.
I've actually done a breakdown of that film where I've got 2 or 3, 4, 5 pages of notes where it's just I've gone through the film. Stop. Write that down. I could do that to quite a lot of films, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you should.
Right. So we have the Bulgarians, the Barbarians. Now let's have a look at the Tartaryans. The Tartaryans. Again, we're back to your griffin, which is a symbol for the Tuatha De Dananns. If we look at the word Tartaryans, we'll find we have the Tartaryans from Tara.
Yeah.
The Tartaryans from Tara, the Tartarians.
Yeah. So that whole Tartaria thing, I think we've touched on it before, is linked to Scotland, isn't it? And Scotia, that kind of lineage in it, the Heber and, or is it not? Have I got confused?
No, the Tartaryans are more to do with the tribe of Dan,
Right.
the Danites. The Danites with the Tuatha De Danann, the Scotia is the Milesians who came along later. It was the Milesians that kicked the Tuatha De Danann out of Ireland, and it was then that the Tuathas then went back to Rome, took British Christianity and pledged it into Roman Christianity. So yeah, there were 2 different groups of people, but they're all the same people.
Yeah. Okay.
There were all these tribes that went from Ireland to Egypt and then went back to Ireland again.
Yeah. And like I think Stephen says, it took 400. Well, the Scottish battled, trying to keep Rome at bay for 400 years of them trying to get back into the Holy Land, allegedly.
Again, when you start looking at that's the official story. I've read many accounts that Britain and the British Empire was at least as big as the Roman Empire round about that same time, around about the 2,000 years ago to 400 AD. Around that time, Britain was at least as big as the Roman Empire. And most of this Roman shit that we find everywhere is actually British shit. Whereas You go out, let's say to Spain, and you find a road that's a mile long. Oh, it's a Roman road. Instantly, it's a Roman. Every straight road is a Roman road.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, if you look back through the history book, most of this Roman stuff is actually just, again, like everything, plagiarized and stolen from Britain. Most of these things actually came from Britain, and they were just plagiarized by Rome. Even all the Greek philosophers say that they were trained by the Irish adepts. So you have all these massively intelligent people, Plato, etc., etc. They said they were trained by the Irish adepts. It's just that the history books forgot to add that little bit in of who they were taught by.
Yeah.
So there we go. A Tartan from Tara. A Tartarian.
Looks like a jolly fellow.
Absolutely. Right. This one needs looking at because we have Newgrange. And Newgrange is on the Bruna Boyne. Now, Steve might be able to help me with this a little bit because I know he's gone into doing quite a lot of work on the ancient British names of places and how they then got moved and changed around. Because as far as I got with this, I spotted Bruna Boyne, went to do a translation on it, and the translation comes back as "Welcome to Venice." Bruna Boyne literally translates to "Welcome to Venice."
And why is that?
I have not a clue. And all you can do is speculate that Newgrange used to be called Venice, and they changed Venice to Venice for the Venetians and the Phoenicians and the Venetians.
I went to Venice this year, didn't I? Beautiful. Interesting.
That's the one that's built on logs, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The story of Venice is just so silly and ridiculous as to why it was built. Is just, I think there was this group or tribe of people who were running away from another group of tribe of people. My memory is terrible. And then they decided to build this city on water because they were chasing them, and the other people would chase them onto the water. And I'm just like, is that it? Is that because obviously he's obviously been built way before then. The story is just so ridiculous. Look up the story of how it's so laughable. It's like, yeah, I mean, ever see the buildings in Venice? Yeah, they just built all that, but no, they didn't. Like that's like come from some superior technology and all kinds of stuff that obviously they've hidden from us again. Like it's just like, yeah, no, that's not. You'd have to be really dumb to believe the story of how Venice came about. Like,
oh, again, who built a city on a marsh? And let's put some pilings down. Let's just bang some trees into this marsh, and we'll build a city on top of these pilings, and just hope it doesn't sink.
Yeah, and the building, there's so it just not. I got there, I was like, obviously me knowing what I know as well, but I was just like chuckling away to myself, like the people actually sucked that one up. It's like us going to the moon, isn't it? With the all that kind of the tin foil and like the Blue Peter ship and bringing them up on the landline. It's just so fucking dumb.
Oh, well, again, once you start going down these routes, then you can start taking things a lot further. Like I say, I mean, I did all the moon landings and how they could not have happened 20 years ago, and then I did the flat Earth thing, and then you sort of come out to the other side of that. But if you talk to 99% of people about the moon landings, all they'll start talking about is the fakery.
Yeah.
What people can't, I've never heard anyone saying yet. I mean, I've heard one or two people scratch onto the surface, but when you start looking at the vacuum of space, 10 to the minus 8 tour vacuum of the low Earth's orbit and 10 to the minus 16 tour of the vacuum of space, well, NASA built a vacuum chamber to test spacesuits in the low Earth's orbit, which is 10 to the minus 8 tour. They built a vacuum chamber, and the walls had to be 8 foot thick of concrete and 12 inches thick of stainless steel to withstand 10 to the minus 8 tour and 1 bar vacuum. Well, apparently the ISS is up there right now with 10 to the minus 8 tour on one side, 1 bar on the other side, and 3 millimeters of aluminium.
Not happening, is it?
Well, as like I say, they needed 8 foot of concrete and 12 inches of stainless steel, but the ISS does it with 3 millimeters of aluminium, and that's only 10 to the minus 8 torr. If you look at the vacuum of space, which is supposed to be 10 to the minus 16 torr, 10 to the minus 16 is 100 million times greater than 10 to the minus 8 torr. Because 10 to the minus 8 only has 8 zeros, 10 to the minus 16 has 16 zeros, which is 100 million times greater. So to actually go into space, you would need a space rocket that has a wall of 800 million foot thick of concrete.
I know. It's
You
just so
you need concrete from here to the moon to protect you from.
I'm curious.
Which again, well, that's why I keep coming back to the space can't be a vacuum, because nothing, absolutely nothing could exist in a 10 to the minus 16 torr vacuum. Literally nothing, which is why I keep coming back to Velikovsky's work and saying the entire universe is just an electric universe. It can't be. It cannot be a vacuum, literally. But if it is an electric universe, you're not going to be able to get into that either, because you'd simply get fried.
Yeah.
And I know there's a talk somewhere by one of the NASA scientists that literally say that they can't go into space because there's too much electromagnetic energy. Unless you built a rocket that had 10-foot thick walls of lead, you'd never be able to get into space, but you'd never be able to launch anything that heavy anyway. So he was saying that they'd never been into space because of the electromagnetic frequencies.
Yeah.
But welcome to Venice. There we go. Welcome to Venice. That's literally what the Brunnerboyne translates into.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to run with Venice and Newgrange, there's a lead.
Awesome.
Right. Sirius. My favourite subject. Again, splitting these things down. One day I'm looking at the word Sirius and you spot C. Well, then a little light bulb goes on in your head and you go, see, that's Spanish, isn't it? See, it means yes. So then break down Rius. If you go down to Google Translate and translate Rius, it means thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening. So Rius literally translates to thunderbolts or lightning.
Right.
Which, given that it's 27 times hotter than the sun and is the scorcher, the shiny, the bright one, etc., etc., this is the one that brings about all this devastation and destruction.
Yeah.
So the word Sirius literally translates to thunderbolts or lightning. Do we know this dude?
Darth Maul. I can't remember his name. Darth Maul?
Yeah, but it's the Sith.
The Sith, isn't he? Yeah, the Sith.
The Sith from
Star Wars. Don't shoot me, Star Wars.
Yeah, I think that was the character he played, but in general, these are all called the Sith. Again, when you're doing this work, you soon find out that the Sith are the the fairy folk, the Scythians. They're all the Tuatha De Danann.
Yeah.
The Sith, the Sidhe, the Scythians, they're all the Tuathas. Started in Ireland and then went over to Scotland. If you look under the mainstream narrative of the Scythians, then they'll just tell you that they were all just brilliant horse riders that all came from the steppes of Russia. Yeah. Well, yes, I could go along with that if you were looking at a period of around about 1,000, 1,500 years ago, after the Tuathas had gone to Russia for the Tsars and the double-headed eagle and the Tartarians. Russia is absolutely covered with evidence that the Tuatha De Dananns were there. So yes, the Scythians could have lived on the steppes of Russia, but they came from Ireland because the Scythians are the Tuatha De Dananns.
And then you've got obviously like Luke Skywalker. Luke is linked to light, isn't he? I think it's from the Latin lux or luce or something like that. which is the Jedi, which is the Jediah, and the Jediahs were the priests of old, probably linked to Druids, is it? I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching there, just making shit up because it sounds nice. I don't know. But that's not, you know,
Yeah, again,
doesn't really right. But yeah, definitely Luke Skywalker is obviously linked to light, isn't it?
yeah, but again, the whole Star Wars saga, there's so many characters and storylines within that that can be related to ancient Ireland. But I also believe that the whole Star Wars story is also about the what's the nuclear wars in India, the Vedics
Oh, you've
when
got Darth Vader.
yeah, well, when these ancient talks of these nuclear wars, the wars of the gods in the Vedic texts in India,
Yeah,
I believe that was the initial foundation of the story of Star Wars. But
yeah.
again, they've used characters from Britain, and
Mm.
like we postulated it right from the very start, very first, that they stole the deities from Ireland and they stole the place names from Britain. So if you want to do a breakdown of Star Wars and run down all the characters and all the place names, I guarantee you that 50% of them all come from Britain.
Yeah, yeah. Vader's apparently, according to my just quick search, means knowledge. But I suppose there'll be loads of different interpretations, like you say, depending on what kind of cipher you're going to use, isn't it? That's
Well,
just good
yeah,
search.
well, as we know that Tis is knowledge, but again, how
Yeah,
we know that Irish and Gaelic is so old is
yeah,
because depending on how old a language is depending on how many variations of a word you can find. The more variations of a word, the older the language. And if you go out throughout the world, you'll find ancient Irish all over the world. I mean, they call it today, they'll call it ancient Hebrew, but ancient
yeah,
Hebrew and ancient Irish are the same language. So
yeah,
it's all right them saying, oh, we found a text out in India, which is 4,000 years ago, and it's written in ancient Hebrew. Just change the word Hebrew to Irish,
yeah, yeah,
and you'll have the origins of the word.
yeah.
I know you'll like this next one.
Oh, I love this one. I love
Ramadan.
as many people as I can on a daily basis. Hold on to your hats for this one. She's great,
Well,
this one.
sometimes again, you'll just see part of a word, drop that
Yeah,
part of a word, and then all of a sudden the entire word turns into something else.
yeah,
Um, Now, I should have, the first word I should have seen was Dan, but it wasn't. It was Ma, which is mother. So then it's all, the rest of the word simply breaks down to Ra, Ma, Dan. Ra is the sun god, Ma is mother, Dan is Dan. So Ra is the sun, is Sirius. So Sirius, the mother of Dan, is
yeah.
how Ramadan breaks down into.
And all religion, as I say, is just construct. That's it. Just to put you in a box and to keep you in that little box and to keep us all
Well,
fighting with each
Well, again, like you keep saying, that all
other.
religion all comes from one source. It's just a different variation of that original source. The same with the mystery skills and the secret language. The mystery skills, they all come from the same source. So there is, if you just go back to learning that one source, anything after that is a bastardization from that one source, like Akhenaten tried to tell everybody,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I'm gonna
it
start.
crushed them.
I think you are Akhenaten. I can always say Akhenaten. Akhenaten. Akhenaten.
Akhenaten,
Akhenaten.
Akhenaten,
Akhenaten. Hey,
Akhenaten,
sir.
Akhenaten.
Cool.
Now again, this is fun, but it needs some work doing on it. But I know I'm over the target. The word, the word
Mhm.
pagan,
Okay.
right? Again, you can split that into pay-gan,
Yeah.
which initially doesn't mean anything. I know pagan was actually introduced by Rome as an insultive term,
Yeah.
because again, pagan was practiced in Rome before Roman Christianity took over. It was basically the ancient original organized religion. So when Rome started to take over Ireland, anybody that was still practicing this ancient religion, they were called pagans because the word pagan translates to country folk. So they were these old-fashioned country folk, backward people that were still practicing this old religion of paganism, and they were practicing the new religion of Roman Christianity.
Yeah.
But when you start breaking down the word pagan, first you come up with gan, which is here is a garden. Then if you go into pay, Dan lives. Dan lives in the garden. What garden? Well, Dan, as soon as you say Dan, you've got to say Tuatha Danann. So we're straight back to Ireland.
Yeah.
What gardens do we know about? The only one that anyone it's either the Garden of Eden or the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So if Dan lives in a garden, you've got to presume that that's Eden, which you have then got to presume that that's Ireland.
Yeah, yeah.
So pagan literally translates to Dan lives in a garden.
Wow.
You can carry on with that one. Again, another favourite one coming from Hull Hill, Saturn in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Down home.
Hell, Yorkshire, Babylon, original Babylon.
Yeah, God's country. No, it's got to be
Right.
widely God's country because everywhere you look in Yorkshire, you find historical holy places or references or connections. So the very simple one, down home, right next to Hull Hill, which is actually Satan in the Bible. Down means hill, home means holy. So down home or dun home literally translates to holy hill.
And then this is what, I don't know if anyone can see that. You probably can't. What I'll do is I'll put this image up, actually. I'll download it. And this is out of the book, Behold Jerusalem, that, like I say, my friend Shane keeps teasing me with the images out of it. And that's the Lamb of God holding the cross, carrying the cross, which literally imprints over Yorkshire as well. That zodiac sign of Aries. It's super, super cool. I'll put the image up as well.
Again, isn't that in William Blake's Jerusalem, where the Lamb of God walked on England's smoky streets or something, however it goes?
Yeah. I think that is definitely part of it. I shall not cease from fight until we bring back God to this green land. Something like that as well. Quoting that really, was that William Blake? Oh, that is the same thing. Jerusalem, isn't it? Or Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's from Jerusalem. We will build Jerusalem on England's green and pastured lands. And then a bit further along, it says something like the Holy Lamb of God walked on England's smoky cobbled streets. Something along those lines.
I should know it's in my talk. The law of the law. I should know that. I quote it and say it. I'm perimenopausal, forgive me. Apparently, forgetting stuff is a sign of a higher mind. I was talking to a friend of mine, I won't mention his name, but he's a profiler and he's done it for 20 years to a very high degree. I was like, do you do serial killers and stuff like that? I think even that's a bit of a myth, I think, because they're the serial killers and they go, look, there's all these serial, anyway, leaving that aside. But yeah, apparently, like it means you've got like a higher kind of book mind if you kind of forget all the other stuff. So I'm just bigging myself up there or giving myself a really good excuse as to why sometimes I'm like, huh? But what?
So I just think there's that much shit in the head that I just need to get it out sometimes.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there. You've just got an empty tin. And it's just going to rattle like an empty tin. If you just load it with information, it's easy to lose information. If there's only one piece of information in there, you're not going to lose it.
You know.
Right. What's that?
Is that the sun behind the sun?
No, that's the planet Mars.
Oh, Mars. Yeah, sorry, yeah. Red and angry, Mars, of course, the god of.
Well, it's supposed to be the god of war, but like we've just pointed out, that M-A, Ma, is mother. Mama, mother, Ma, mama, mother.
Yeah.
So Mars, M-A-R-S, if we take away the Ma, which is mother,
Yeah.
and just leaves RS. Well, like I said, there are only 16 vowels, no consonants, or whichever way it is. So if you just simply go into translate and translate RS, it comes back as ruler or leader.
Mm.
So the word Mars, Mars, literally translates to the mother ruler or the mother leader.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with men, wars, or fighting.
I wonder if Mars bar is linked to the law. The mother leader of the bar. I'm just messing. Mars bar.
Well, it works. Mars is mother leader or mother ruler.
Mother ruler of the bar.
Precisely. Mars bar. There you go. You're learning how to do it straight away.
You know what I mean? Skills.
Now then, again, this one is going to need some homework.
Yeah.
Templars. The Knights Templars.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take the word Templar, Templar, chop that into Templar, do a translation of Templar. The answer of that comes as unclean flower.
Right.
Now, I know that the unclean flower has something to do with women's periods, with blood and women's periods.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't take that one any further.
Yeah.
If you're going to take it further, Templar translates into unclean flower, and unclean flower has something to do with fertility and women's menstruation periods.
Yeah. Another interesting thing as well is apparently there is like a fake flower. You know, you get the fleur-de-lis in sacred geometry, and the one that we're kind of bombarded with and shown is kind of the fake one. It's kind of like the hijack one, and there's a lot of people wear them around their necks, and it's not the actual true flower of life. Again, that's an inversion, apparently. Don't know whether that's linked to it, but it just came to my head.
Well, if you want to talk about the fleur-de-lis, the fleur-de-lis is one of the emblems for the tribe of Reuben. You said right, like you do not know this one?
No.
Okay. Tribe of Reuben, one of the 12 tribes of Israel. One of the other sons is Joseph. Joseph in his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Well, his wife was Rachel. Now, Rachel couldn't have any children.
Yeah.
And no matter how she tried, she wanted children. So then she could add to the 12 tribes and all the rest of it. But she couldn't have any children. So Reuben came along and gave her a mandrake flower, which then enabled her to have 2 kids. One was Manasseh, the other one was, I've lost it. She had 2 sons. One was Manasseh. I can't remember who the other one was. But because it was Reuben who gave Rachel the mandrake flower just happens to look like the fleur-de-lis. So this is how the symbol of the fleur-de-lis then became the emblem of the tribe of Reuben. So that's where your modern day symbol of the fleur-de-lis comes from. It comes from because it looks like the mandrake flower, and that's the story behind the mandrake flower.
Oh, interesting. And obviously,
So that's where your fleur-de-lis comes. That's where your fleur-de-lis comes from. Again, when you start looking at channels like Flat Earth British or Archaics, and they'll all be telling you that it's some energy weapon from the past that is taken in pictorial form. It's like, really? No, it's just a flower. It's nothing more complicated than that. It's a mandrake flower. And also, I can actually confirm that because I've talked to Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. He went into it. He's just done an album called is it the Mandrake or the Mandrake Man or the Mandrake Flower or something? He's just done an album called the Mandrake, and it's all to do with that.
Wow. Yeah, he knows. Bruce knows.
They all do, because I mean, I also talked to him about the record in the album, The Seventh Son.
Right.
I have made them the seventh son. So that's well, the seventh son is Sirius, the seventh heavenly star.
And Jimmy Savile was the seventh son of a seventh son, isn't it? Apparently that's quite a magical. If you are the seventh son of a seventh son, it's in The Witcher as well. Or it might have been the Wheel of Time. I think it was the Wheel of Time.
The Wheel of Time.
It holds a strong magical property, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the seventh son is Sirius.
Yes, brilliant. Yeah, and Jimmy Savile was from Yorkshire, which came up from the mouth of hell, and what would have been classed as old Babylon.
Again, he's just a modern day psychotic Danite.
Exactly.
Like I said, when it started off, when it started off 7,000-8,000 years ago, when it was in its true form, pure form, when with Lou and all the rest of them, then it was in its pure form, and it's just been bastardized and bastardized. They've been doing that much interbreeding to make sure that they keep this bloodline pure. Is that they're just all psychotic nutcases now?
Yeah.
Again, Iris. And it's called Iris deliberately because if we flip the word Iris, we get the word Siri. And Siri is Sirius, and another name for Sirius is the Eye of Providence.
Yeah, of course. And then they've got that bit like an Alexa, isn't it, called Siri? You ask it questions.
You can ask it questions and it knows the answers. But then again, we find Siri and Iris. These, like I keep saying, is absolutely everywhere. Once you know how to decode it, then you can actually. It is literally doing the They Live glasses, because once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. It literally. But again, until you can actually, you've put enough of these jigsaw pieces into place.
Yeah,
it's still a bit cloudy, but you start getting a suspicion that it's everywhere. And the more you study, and the clearer that you see, like I keep saying, scratch and duck. There's that much out there. You might get one idea, scratch it, and then all of a sudden 20 ideas will drop onto your head. Right. Michael Saurian. No, we're not going to break down the word. We're not going to break down the word Michael Saurian. It's just this next one is actually dedicated to Michael Saurian, because I've seen a lot of his work, and it's absolutely amazing. If you haven't come across his work, please go and study it, because it's just jaw-dropping. He's been studying this stuff since he was a kid. He makes me look like a primary school kid.
It's good, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant, and I like the work he does on psychology. Yeah, so I like the work that he likes to do on psychology. So when he was talking, and I was listening to him, he kept talking about this scarring of man's memory, and he kept saying there were a long time ago there was a disaster, and this disaster is scarred onto the memory of mankind, and this then affects us right through to today, of this hidden knowledge of this ancient disaster. Now, one of the joys of Asperger's is pattern recognition. I spent months, if not years, going through Michael's videos, and every single time he talked about this ancient apocalypse, he always described it as a disaster. So let's go back one. That's the next one. Right, so we always described it as a disaster. So as soon as you see the word disaster, D-I-S-A-S-T-E-R, disaster. Well, like again, once you see the word sa in the middle of disaster,
it's still in my head.
You have the. So we've got die the star. Di is Diana, and Diana is Sirius.
Yeah.
Sirius, disaster, Di za star, literally translates to Sirius the star. So Sirius the star that brings about the disaster, the Great Flood.
Yeah.
which, if you've seen any of these videos, that's pretty much this entire channel is dedicated to proving that Sirius brings about the Great Flood.
Yeah.
Again, we'll go to this one because I know you like this one. Great Britain.
Yeah.
Britain.
Yeah.
And if we go into a translation of the word Brit, the word Brit means covenant. The word Tain means people.
Yeah.
So the word Brit Tain literally translates to people of the covenant. Go and find me some better proof than that out in the Middle East. In the circus paradigm, go and find me somewhere that is called. Find me anywhere in the Middle East that, I mean, the state of Israel, they keep calling themselves God's chosen people. Are they the people of the covenant? You would literally have to go and change the name of the state of Israel to Britain for them to be chosen, for them to be the chosen people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fiction again, isn't it? The state of Israel, the state without Israel, it's a fiction.
Yeah, but I say most people, they don't even bother with the word state of. It's just Israel. This is why when we did the video last week of me breaking down who and what Israel is not a country. Israel is a man's name. Israel is the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. That's all Israel is. It's a man's name. It's not a country. It's not a country. It's not a land. It's not even a people's. It's a man's name. That's all it is. Israel, Jacob. Nothing more than that. This one I quite liked. The Shemsu Hor. Now, for those that don't know who the Shemsu Hor are, they are the original builder gods of Egypt.
Yeah.
Osiris, Thoth, Osiris, Set, etc., etc. These are your blonde-haired, blue-eyed builder gods who initially turned up in Egypt and they rebuilt Egypt. They were called the Shemsu Hor. So we'll chop up the word Shemsu Hor. The word Shem means sons. Su means of. Hor means Horus. So the Shemsu Hor are basically the sons of Horus. Take that one step further. Horus is another name for Sirius. So the Shemsu Hor are the sons of Sirius.
Which is why you get hours. Horus is hours as well in etymology. Or horizon, yeah.
And horizon. Yeah,
exactly.
every flat earther on the planet shouting that one out. Horus is
oh God,
but
wow, yeah.
Horus is another name for Sirius, so the Shemsu Hor can be read as the sons of Sirius. Either way, these are these builder gods that turned up from Ireland, and which is why I still contend that Thoth is blue.
Blue, right? Yeah, interesting.
Thoth is blue.
Yeah.
Next, Samael. Samael. Have you beaten me to it yet?
Samael. Yes. Little one. I'm not going to ruin the punch.
Sa is the, Ma is mother, El is Elvin. Samael is the mother Elvin, Lilith. Lilith, the mother Elvin.
Yeah.
Samael. Lilith.
Yeah. Long story. But yes. She came and visited me one night. Must be just cool.
Everyone keeps having these stories about meetings with spirits and interdimensional things, and mine's just like complete blank, nothing.
I'm drawing a blank, Neil says. I'm drawing a blank.
Everyone starts talking about these other creatures, and if I had any experience, no. Even when I died, I didn't have experience. It just went black.
Oh, poor you,
when you talk about dying, when everyone starts talking about when my near-death experience, obviously I failed and got sent back.
What? No, we don't want you, Neil. Go on, get to fuck. Get back there, come. You're not
But
finished.
neither of them wanted me. Neither of them wanted me, so I just got sent back. But when you start talking to people about it, you think, "Oh, did you see the light? Did you hear voice? No, it just went black, completely black.
Yeah,
One minute
yeah.
it just went black, and next minute I've got someone slapping me around the face, telling me to open my eyes. That's about as best I can tell you about.
And the less you say
Other
about
than the
your
fact
ex,
that,
only joking. Whoever Neil's ex is just a joke. I don't know who you are.
oh, I don't mind joking about it. I should have been in the worst pain that I've ever. I should have been in the worst pain that I've ever been in my life. I was in one of the most horrific accidents that you could imagine, but at the point of actually dying, I was lovely and warm, and all I just wanted to do was turn over and go back to sleep again.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
pain, nothing. I was just lovely and warm, and just had accepted that I was just about to die, and it was just like shut your eyes, and that's what it was. Only I didn't see any
Your
light.
time, Neil, not your time.
I got sent back to do this shit.
Exactly. I could end.
You know where I'm going with this.
I do. The red
The land
hand.
of Mu. Well, everyone talks about this land of Mu and Lemuria, etc., which I can't disagree with it because this would be going back a long time before our studies started, if it existed. But the only place that I've ever been able to find called Mu is Mumu, and that
Yeah.
is, and that's Munster in Ireland. And
And we
then
know
as soon
that's
as
one
you
of my favourites.
well, yeah, you know where I'm going with this one because as soon as you start, say, Mu turns to Moo Moo, then you've got to look at the Justified Ancients of Moo Moo by the KLF, Tammy Wynette, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white-skinned master race, who just happened to come from Munster, Ireland.
Yeah. Oh, she actually did she? I didn't know that.
No, she didn't. She's American.
Oh,
And I'm not really sure how they managed to get hold of her, but
yeah.
the only interesting thing I can add to Tammy Wynette is the T and the W. Well, her initials are TW.
Yeah.
So that in Gematria is 223.
Which means
Oh, well, you're getting into all the skull and bones,
right, okay.
23, the Gematria.
Yeah.
Like I say, they don't use a zero, so the T is 20, drop the zero, W is 23. So Tammy Wynette literally is
Yeah.
the number 223.
And I was having this conversation with Stephen the other day, and it, all the news stories, these music videos, all these things, all this theatre, like you say, with Donald Trump and the Don and the, it's all there to show us exactly kind of, it's just a big code, and it's being flashed at us like that, and all the news they all mean something that's going on in the heavens as well. It's just, and then we're going to just be doing more and more of this. So you'll see the channel. We were just chatting, weren't we, Neil? I don't like to say it's got a theme, but it's got a flow, and it's going in one direction at the moment because what else can I do, because I don't want to do anything else, because it's just, yeah, it's just so fascinating and interlinked. It will flow and flow and flow until we've all had enough of each other, maybe. But I can't see that ever happening,
Yeah,
can you?
I don't think we're ever going to run out of material because, like I say,
No.
it's an Olympic-sized swimmer. It's an Olympic-sized swimmer built full of cherries, and there's about 6 of us in it. So we're
I know,
not
same
going
here.
to
Not many of us, is there? I've got my little armbands on still, like just do. My wobble wing.
Right,
Continue.
and last but not least, now this one isn't so much as a manipulation of a word, this is a manipulation of a deity. Satan.
Yeah.
Satan. So Satan is where the actual word came from. Satanta. Like I was saying, they used all the Irish deity names. His dad was called Lu for Lucifer. His dad was called Cian for Cain, etc., etc. So, how they play with words. Satan, Satanta, is Cuchulainn in Irish. Cuchulainn, the hound.
Yeah.
Now, Cuchulainn, this is where, again, where you get this crossover between what is law and what is reality. Because if you took the word Cuchulainn and went over to America, the Mayans have a white skin, blonde haired, blue eyed, tall European who brought them advanced knowledge, sounding a lot similar to Cuchulainn. Weirdly, the Mayans also said he was a shapeshifter. Now, that came from the Mayans. They said he was a shapeshifter. Now, if you go back to Ireland, the Tuatha De Dananns are also called the shapeshifters. So we have Cuchulainn, the tall, white-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed European, turning up in South America as Cuchulainn, the tall, white-skinned, blonde-haired European who was a shapeshifter, and we'll have one guess at what he shapeshifted into. A feathered, plumed serpent.
Yeah, so there's
which,
that plumed serpent.
Yeah,
link.
it's back to your plumed serpent. And the Mayans took the plumed serpent from the much older Aztecs.
Yeah.
So both the Mayans and the Aztecs worshipped Quetzalcoatl, who happened to be Cuchulainn, who happens to be Cuchulainn, who happens to be Satan, Satanta.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
So Quetzalcoatl is Satan.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. See, 10. Boom. Boom.
The words.
Yep.
Those are the words that I dug out.
Wow. Smashed it yet again, Neil. And like I say, as I always bang on, the words are just so important, aren't they? You know, the symbolism, the language, you know, the decoding of the code, that, you know, the Manly P Hall thing, you know, when we kind of learn this, when we can break down language the way that you've just done, then I always say there's information and misinformation, and we're being presented with it all the time. And that's why it's so perplexing and so confusing. But once you kind of get to that kind of root of that code, and you know, I always say, like, you know, well, actually I stole this off Logan, who his channels, you know, he talks about scripted reality on Decoding Reality. He says we are the coders and we are the decoders. You know, and again it goes into what Stephen says, we are the Elohim, we are the gods. Stop having them tell you who you are and what you do and where they're going to put you, you know. And it's time for us to kind of, in fact, like I say, there was a woman who was having a little bit of a kick off, and I'd shared one of Stephen's posts going, I'm not doing this, this is, they're doing this, you know, how you know, they're doing this to the children, they're doing this to everybody. And I decided, and no disrespect to this lady if she's watching, just to not reply, because I don't react anymore in the same way, because I thought, well, you know, no offense, but you just don't quite get it. And if it has been us in our ignorance, you know, it's like with the law, ignorance is no defense of the law. We've been, you know, we're not doing it in a way, but we've allowed it to occur. And you know, in our ignorance, this has all been going on because we have forgotten who we are. We are disconnected from the land. We haven't been aware of the legal system, etc., and the con of that. We haven't been following the heavens. We need to get back, you know, to what our ancestors, you know, knew, and what they've hidden from us. Speech over. So yeah, thank you so much yet again. It's just like, you know, it's just like a big feathery plumed serpent of awesomeness. We're trying to remember.
In a very, very simplistic way, when we can say we create our own future, simplistic way, we've just had a general election, we voted in Labour. You could have had all the papers, every news media outlet on the planet telling you to vote in Labour, but if everyone had gone out and voted for Tories or Reform or whatever, then they would have been in power today. We brought about that reality. Everyone going out. I mean, you know, from your study of the law, when the 2020 happened, that no matter what they'd said, none of it was based in the law. So none of it applied to you. They were all based around acts and mandates and words like this that don't actually apply to us. So when you're watching all this news coming out going, it's mandated that you have to wear a mask. Well, the only people that brought about masks are the people that wore masks.
Yeah, exactly. So we
They brought about their own reality, if you will, by their actions. If, like you say, one of the biggest words, what was it? And the world stood up and said no, end of chat, and it ended. I think that was
exactly.
one of the memes. The world said no, everyone stood up, said no, and the pandemic was over.
Yeah, the whole
And then
thing, and
you've just, you've,
the Danish government have just said, haven't they, that they've literally just said it in their open parliament. Oh yeah, it was a massive psyop organised by NATO. It's like, and still, it's
yeah,
willful ignorance at that point, isn't it? If you kind of still literally not wanting to look at it, it is us that's doing it. And this victim savior template, Trump's coming, Elon. No, they are not coming to help you. The only people that can do it is us on the ground, us, or we are the power, and that's the one thing that they really don't want us to remember. We are the solution, the solution. And I stole that from Stephen, very good one. But
again, I
I've
mean,
actually,
how can we predict if we're not studying if we're not studying what's happening today? How can we predict the future? I mean, I was saying 12, 18 months ago that Trump would get voted in, he'd be rolled in on a red carpet, he'd be brought in like a god, because the previous government, Biden, in the last 4 years, I say they do it deliberately. I'm thinking the Conservative Party deliberately ran the country down because they knew that they wanted Labour in power. I would say that the Kamala Harris was chosen to deliberately throw that election to make sure that Trump was brought in, because no sane person on the planet would run an election like the way the Democrats ran the election. That was just a gravy train.
yeah,
She,
yeah.
you can't
And
say
we don't,
that she made. Go on, sorry.
oh, sorry, go on. No, I was just saying, and again, an X in a box means you're illiterate. You're not voting these people in. It's the United Kingdom, limited jurisdiction. It's their jurisdiction. Like I've always said, what is a mandate? It's when two men go out for a curry. It doesn't apply to living men and women. Try telling them that. I mean, it is literally lawless out there at the moment, but we can just keep, or we can, like say, it's as simple as just saying no. I mean, we're going to be doing like the status correction changes and all this kind of stuff, and it is all about intent, and these things do work under the UCC, the commercial code. It's commerce, and commerce, as we know, is in scripture, the devil's work, Lucifer, Lundan, Ludan, the city of Ludan, Lundan, etc., and so forth. Je suis, I am. That it's the power's always been with us, and we've just forgotten. We've just forgotten who we are, which is why, again, with the work that Stephen does and the work that you do and the stuff that I do, if you, like I say, we're all these druids of old battling Rome, and Rome is falling. They're going down. So all we can keep doing is keep on keeping on, as I say. But you don't vote these people in. That's why they call it the opinion polls. Neil, do you remember they used to call it the opinion polls? Do you remember they've dropped that word now? Again, they don't want to give too many clues away because it's an opinion of a slave. Your opinion, they can listen to it, but they don't have to follow it. So you just voted in a CEO of a company, which CEO of the same it's the same company. It's the illusion of freedom and choice that they give us, and it's us that joins in with it.
Well,
If you're still
again,
belly, then you've missed the point. Awake is a party for the dead. If you think you're awake, like you say, Neil, that's a state you don't really want to be in either.
again, it's putting people in boxes, putting ideas in boxes.
A ballot box.
Yeah, well, if you stand there and go, I know this, I know that, unless you can stand there and go, I know absolutely nothing, and
Yeah.
everything that I think I know is open to be questioned and changed if better evidence comes along. What I tend to find is, even in the truther community, that sort of 95% of truthers, because they're invested so much into what they know, it
Yeah.
can't be changed. It can't ever be changed, because that means that everything else that they know has to be changed, which
Yeah.
means it might put them back 10 years of research. Well, all right, put it back 10 years of research and start again.
It is, and I think as well, like it's this egoic grasping mind of which, no, hello, I'll hold my hand up. We want to feel that we know. So we kind of, we get to that point and we go, right, okay, wow, I know all this occult stuff. I know now, and it makes you feel better when actually, when you really get some wisdom, then you really do start to get humbled by it and go, actually, no, I don't. And the more it is really cheesy, but it is like the less you know, the you know, the better you are really, and it can kind of flow over you, and wisdom is certainly different to knowledge in that sense. You can have a lot of information, but if you're not applying wisdom and if you're reacting to all the situations in the theatre that they present to you, then you're part of that theatre. And as I always say, your name is on the credits. Well done, you've just joined in with the whole game and theatre, and that's what we've got to stop doing. And that's what I meant by with that lady, by, you know, again, no disrespect to her, you know, we've all been part of it. Me too. You know, it's not like I'm any different. So, you know, and it's the more we remove ourselves from their constructs and boxes, and like I said, it's a very powerful word in the English language, that no.
No, everyone's that word. No.
No.
And
Just
it,
no.
it actually takes so it actually takes so much courage to use that with such a small word. But it takes so much courage just to say, just to look someone in the face and go, no.
No. Yeah.
And then just put it back on.
And they say, don't they? You'll know who your friends are when you start saying no to people, you know, if people are kind of vamping off you, or you know what I mean? As soon as you start saying no, and you get some strong boundaries, folks, and it's the same with, you know, like I say, we've got to start looking to the heavens. We've got to start getting this knowledge back. That's where the true power lies, not just staring at the theatre and joining in with it and shouting it, you know, and jumping up and down about it. I mean, what were they? There was something on Facebook that they were protesting again now, and there was a petition, and I'm just like, oh, for God's sake, like, you know what I mean? It ain't going to change anything. Petition means to beg. Protest, that, you know, you just slaves begging for, you know, for your masters not to do it. You know, it ain't going to work. You know, we expose and we highlight, and we know thyself, and then yeah, we can do the law, and we can do constitutional law. They're a bunch of treasonous bastards, and we can get to the facts of the case, like, you know, that's all part of it. Like Stephen says, if you understand in the heavens, and you understanding that the bar is in the heavens, as it's, you know, in those lower realms, you're on the Argo Navis, you're on the ships, and you're going to get, if you've had the jibby jabbies and you're going along with it, then you're going into Hades, you're going back to the underworld. Whereas really we want to be, you know, on the land, under the North Celestial Pole, as Stephen would say, like knowing this stuff and integrating it, doing what our ancestors did, and then we're really starting to, you know, get somewhere, I believe. Or you might, you know, think we're talking shite, which is absolutely your prerogative too. But there we go. Turn me off. Don't really. Subscribe, like, share.
If you want to be a citizen on their ship, be my guest.
Exactly. And on that note, people, again, Neil will be back. And again, do keep an eye out for the live on the 7th of December, where you can come and ask Neil questions in real time. And Stephen and I've got some questions too, and it's just gonna be fun. So that will be good. And I have set up where you can join the channel now as a member and get exclusive content. So I'll plug that. It just helps us carry on doing what we do, because, you know, we don't earn. What's earning? Again, it's dead language. So it all helps if you can join. Please do join. If not, just like and share and subscribe. That helps us out. And lots of love to everybody. Neil, amazing again. Mind blown. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Cheers.